We're up to the 10th chapter, text number 2. Om Jnana Timidandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Nina Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Palakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Upam Sagurajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishware Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I will chant and then everyone can repeat. Name Vidu Suragana
Name Vidu Suragana
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Maharshinam Chasavashaha
Maharshinam Chasarvasha
Name Vidu Suragana
Name Vidu Suragana
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Maharshinam Chasavashaha
Maharshinam Chasarvasha
Name Vidu Suragana
Name Vidu Suragana
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Maharshinam Chasavashaha
Maharshinam Chasarvasha Name Vidu Suraganaha Name Vidu Suraganaha Prabhavam Maharshaya Prabhavam Maharshaya Aham Adirhi Devanam Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharshinam Cha Sarvashaha Maharshinam Cha Sarvasya Name Vidu Suraganaha Name Vidu Suraganaha Prabhavam Maharshaya Prabhavam Maharshaya Aham Adirhi Devanam Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharshinam Cha Sarvasya Maharshinam Cha Sarvashaha
Name Suragana
Name Vidu Suragana
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Aham Adirhi Devanam
Harshinam Cha Sarvashaha
Maharshinam Cha Sarvashaha.
Anyone else?
Name Vidu Suragana
Name Vidu Suragana
Prabhavam Maharshaya
Prabhavam Namaharshaya.
Ahamadirhi Devanam
Aham Adirhi Devanam.
Maharshinam cha Sarvashah.
Maharshinam
Maharshinam
Sarvashah.
Sarvashah. Na,
Na.
never.
Never.
Me,
Me.
my.
My.
We do.
We
Do.
No.
No.
Suraganaha.
Suraganaha.
Demigod.
The demigods.
Prabhavam.
Prabhavam.
Origin.
Opulences.
Opulence.
Opulences.
So it has two meanings, origin and opulences. Na,
Na.
No.
never.
Never.
Maharshaya.
Maharshaya.
Mahashaya.
Great sages.
Great
Great
sages.
Aham.
Aham.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
Adi.
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 The origin. The origin.
The origin.
He.
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 Certainly.
Certainly.
Devanam.
Devanam.
Of the demigods.
Of the demigods.
Maharishinam.
Maharishinam.
Of the great sages.
Of the great sages.
Shah.
Yeah.
Also.
Also.
Savashaha.
Sarvashaha.
In all respects.
In all respects.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Report by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No one is greater than him. He is the cause of all causes. Here it is also stated that the Lord stated by the Lord personally that he is the cause of all the demigods and sages. Even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither his name nor his personality. So what is the position of the so-called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why the Supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three modes of material nature, or they can imagine something by mental speculation, but it's not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, here I am present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am the Supreme. One should know this, although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present. He nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as some ruling power or as the impersonal Brahman can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of God, it cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. because most men cannot understand Krishna and his actual situation. Out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord. And out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him. So even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? It is he whom we have to worship. So, translation again, neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. So, well, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivasesa Sunyavadi Prastachati Satarani. So I want to just see if I can, how do I change my view to gallery view? I don't want to just look at myself. So now I'm just looking at people's names. Okay. So in this verse, the demigods or the great sages, none of them know Krishna's opulences. He's the source of them. They don't know his origin. It's like, how do you know anything about your father, your mother, before you were born, before you were actually, you don't know, you just hear from them. That's the only way you can know about them. So the demigods are no different. They can speculate, and they might be able to come to mental speculation to the conclusion that the absolute is impersonal. Because we can see in this material world, Prabhupada explains this, I'm going to go over the purport again, I'm just briefly summarizing now, that this material world is just a combination of these modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So by studying this material world, we know this is not the absolute truth. This is not the absolute truth. This is not the absolute. So we negate all of this. So therefore, we can conclude that the absolute truth is impersonal. This is all personal. You kind of can conclude that the absolute has to be the opposite of this, because this is all material, the absolute is all spiritual, because this has variegatedness, the absolute truth has no variegatedness. This is not the correct conclusion, but from what you see here, this is the conclusion you can come to. So the demigods and the great sages, by their mental speculation, can come to this conclusion. But that is not a factual conclusion. What is the opposite of, there's so many reasons, but first of all, because there's variegatedness here, we can understand there's variegatedness also in the spiritual world. How can the material world be greater than the spiritual world? It is personality here. So they say there's no personality there. It's all one. No, there's personality, but it's opposite of this. It's not material personality, it's spiritual personality. They don't have a material body, they have a spiritual body. So one thing I'm sure we can probably all agree on is that no one can come to the conclusion of the absolute truth by speculating, come to the conclusion that the absolute truth is Krishna, who has dark black hair like crow's feathers. His skin is blackish, bluish in color. He wears a peacock feather in his head, in his hair. You can't come to these conclusions by speculating. It's not possible. But you can come to them by Krishna, by one's sincerity, and Krishna revealing to the devotee himself. It's just like this knowledge. It's nobody can understand the absolute truth. But we can understand the absolute truth to a certain extent, according to our surrender. Krishna, or the absolute truth, can reveal himself to us. We can't understand the absolute truth by our own endeavor, by our own strength, because I'm so sincere, I'm such a great soul, I'm so surrendered, I do all these things externally, therefore I can understand the absolute truth. No. But if we're sincere, genuinely sincere, then the Lord can reveal himself to us. So even though he's unknowable, we can know him up to a certain extent. It's not a contradiction how you can know the unknowable. But you can, if the unknowable wants you to know him to a certain extent, he can reveal himself to you. So what's the first verse of the Brahma Samhita? Anybody know? Try to get a little interaction here. Okay.
Is it Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha?
More than that.
Anadi Govinda Sharva Karana Karana.
Anybody got the English?
I don't think I memorized it exactly, but I could try.
Krishna is the cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Krishna.
And his form is made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, Satchidananda Vigraha. Anadar Govinda, he has no beginning, and he's the cause of all causes, like Manishi Mataji said.
I don't know who said it before, but you're more computer savvy than I am to figure out who's talking. But I can tell you're talking because I can see you. But yeah, but as stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He's the cause of all causes. You know, being the cause of all causes. There are so many causes, you know, what caused this, what caused that. Sometimes something happens to you and you try to figure out why did that happen. You can't really figure it out. It could be your karma, could be Lord's mercy. I mean, it's your Lord's mercy anyway, even if it's your karma for a devotee, it's minimized. It could be something happens to avoid something else. I mean, we don't know why things happen, but we know that there's some cause to it. And ultimately, he's the cause of all causes. So ultimately, it's Krishna. We should see everything that happens to us, especially because we're aspiring to be devotees. We could say we're devotees or we're aspiring to be devotees. Therefore, Krishna has everything, has something to do with everything in our life. And to be Krishna conscious is seeing everything is coming from Krishna. When in the Bhagavatam, when the bull religion personified was being struck by Kali, and Maharaj Parikshit came and asked the bull who did this, and he explained, well, some people say, you know, it would be the bull here. Some people say it's reactions to your sin. Some people say that, but he said, but ultimately it's the unseen hand of God. So he didn't see it, he's seen what it is ultimately. It's coming from Krishna. That's good and bad. And it's not really bad or good. It's bad or good to our perception. But if it's coming from Krishna, it's all good. It's all good because it's all ultimately to help us. So Krishna, we have to see Krishna as the cause of all causes. No one is greater than him. He is the cause of all causes. Here it is stated also stated by the Lord personally, that he is the cause of the demigods and sages. So, they don't know him. They can know him only the same way we can know him, by accepting what he says in Bhagavad Gita, ultimately by approaching a bona fide spiritual master and rendering service unto him and surrendering to him. Then Krishna, because what can we do to directly please Krishna? It's a sign of humility to accept someone as better than you. He knows better than I do. I accept what he says. So that's, Krishna likes that, when you accept someone who's devoted to him as knowing something more than you. So that's humility. And he wants his devotees to be humble. Krishna doesn't like when his devotees are not humble. When his devotees become puffed up, Krishna makes some arrangement to relieve them of that position by humbling them in different ways. So Krishna, that's just one aspect of accepting a guru. You approach the guru and he can explain the absolute truth to you because he has seen the truth. So the demigods and the great sages, they can also accept devotees and surrender to them. And then they can know Krishna the same way we do. But here it's saying there are a lot of demigods who just, I really don't understand how a demigod, because there's supposed to be 33 million of them, how they don't know Krishna. Maybe they don't know him very well. Maybe they know him as the person in charge of, they have to know something in order to become a demigod. So, but they don't have to really be so surrendered to Krishna just to do the job. They got a job to do. I don't really understand that too much because the demigods are devotees. So if they're devotees, how would they be understanding or seeing Krishna as the impersonal? What do you do? You can't be a devotee of the Brahma Jyoti. You can serve a person. You can glorify a person. What do you do with the Brahma Jyoti? Oh, you are so bright. You make the biggest shadow. I don't know how you glorify the Brahma Jyoti. But so I'm not sure here. And of course, the great sages, but there are great sages who are impersonalists. So that we can understand. Of course, there are great sages who are great devotees. Neither the host of demigods, but neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. So that's definitely true. Where did Krishna come from? Nobody knows where Krishna comes from. That's a problem us with our little tiny brains. We have to actually try to see things in where did that come from? Where did that come from? So now let's say, okay, I accept everything that's created came from Krishna. Where did Krishna come from? We can ask that, but it's really, you can't get an answer to that because Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of God, and without tiny brain, we think he had to come from somewhere, just like everything else came from somewhere. But someday we won't have that question anymore. We'll see Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we'll have our relationship with him, and we wouldn't even care where he comes from. But everything comes from him. There's nothing. All the Brahma Jyoti is from him. All the planets and universes are from him. Everything comes from him. So there are some demigods who even the demigods who kind of realize that, they don't even know it's Krishna. I mean, if you look at Indra, the king of heaven, he's the king of these demigods, king of heaven. And he gets upset when they're worshiping Krishna. So he doesn't even know Krishna. He knows there's some authority, there's some supreme being, but he didn't realize it was Krishna. And speaking of puffed up and how Krishna doesn't like it, he was really puffed up. So Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson and humble him without hurting him. With the demons that get puffed up, he just kills them. But when his devotees get puffed up, he makes some situation in order to humble them. So he spoke against Indra, the king of heaven. Krishna spoke as a little boy. You know, what are you performing? What are you doing this sacrifice? His father thinks, oh, he won't be able to understand. He's just a child. So he said, well, we're just doing a sacrifice for such and such, you know, for Indra. And then he explained, then Krishna says, you know, family, you know, we shouldn't keep secrets among family members. You know, you should tell me what this whole thing is about. So then he tells them. Then Krishna says, we really we don't have much to do with, we don't have to worship Indra to get rain. The rain falls on the rocks. The rain falls on the ocean. The rain falls in all these places that there's no use for rain. Rain comes automatically all over the place. We don't have to worship him to get rain. Why don't we worship Govardhan Hill? Govardhan Hill, we have a relationship with Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill provides us with the grass for the cows and trees for shade. And so anyway, his father said, okay, we'll make a separate puja, worship of Govardhan Hill, but right now we're going to worship Indra. He said, no, you got everything ready for Indra. Now just switch it to Govardhan Hill. It's going to be too much work to do two of them. Just do it. So of course he's God. He's able to convince everybody that that's what they should do. They do it. Indra is furious. Why is he furious? He's not furious because he sees that Krishna, his master, is stopping his worship. And I'll get back at my master. He's not thinking that at all. He's seeing him as a little boy, so he's not seeing him as the supreme personality of Godhead, which he is. And then, of course, he sent torrents of rain like pillars. You get pillars holding up a building. They were coming down like that. That's like unheard of. I mean, we're going to get in the next day or two, we're getting a lot of rain for like 2 days. Nothing compared to the devastation that was sent onto Govardhan, onto Vrindavan. And Krishna and Indra, this great king, a Rajasi, you're supposed to be a religious king. He's a king. And he is trying to kill not just Krishna and not just his relatives, all of these people who listen to him, and all of their cows. I'm going to kill them all. That's pretty mean. And Krishna didn't really punish him much. He just showed him how his powers are useless against his. So Krishna just lifted Govardhan Hill and just held it for as long as Indra was going to keep trying to send down this rain. He could have held it for years. Nobody was hungry. Nobody was thirsty. The rain didn't go under the hill. It just came up to the hill. It all disappeared. And he's holding the hill. And then he realized, you know, that he committed a great offense against Krishna. And this is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I've committed an offense. And now I'm going to stop the rain. And when he stopped the rain, he put the hill down, and then he came, and Krishna, in a place where there weren't any people, Indra came with a Surabi cow, and no, he came with a cow or an elephant, or both. I'm getting mixed up. Once somebody came with an elephant, or maybe it was the elephant would obey Krishna. Come on, help me out here. Is anybody paying attention? I guess I could say anything then. Anyway, it's Surabi cow, and they got the milk from the Surabi cow because I think it was Brahma told him to bring a Surabi cow because if he gives that milk, then Krishna will be pacified. And he begged for forgiveness, and Krishna forgave him. But his devotee was becoming very proud, so Krishna had to do something. He had to curb his pride. And he's the king of heaven, and he didn't know Krishna, the absolute truth, the original supreme personality of Godhead. But then he learned who he was. So everybody can learn, and Krishna's somehow teaching this. Anybody have any questions at anything I said so far?
How could Indra was confused because he was a little boy, I guess, but otherwise, how could he not know he was God? Is a little baffling.
Anyway, I can't say, I guess I could say how Indra didn't know he was God the same way we forget him. You know, we forget him, we remember, okay, if somebody reminds us.
But the difference between us and the demigods is they respect authority, while conditioned souls, deviate and, don't always go to authority.
Well, they used to go to authority. They used to, not just more in recent times. I mean, even the Christians had some authority. And then in Vedic culture, even they worship demigods. They worship the demigods. Krishna doesn't want people worshiping demigods, but at least that's better than not worshiping the demigods or not worshiping anyone. So just more recently, you might notice there's different reactions like this COVID and so many things happening because people are not surrendering to Krishna.
But demigods are much more aware, right, of the superiority of Krishna.
According to this, it doesn't seem like it. I don't know. They know God. I don't know what they know. I'm not a demigod. Indra certainly didn't know when he came here who he was. So what do they know? Do they know what he looks like when he's young? Apparently not. Otherwise, they could have recognized him.
I mean, obviously, go ahead, Sidhu.
I was also thinking that they don't even get to see Vishnu or Krishna on a regular basis. Like when they went to the ocean of milk, only Brahma was communicating with the Lord, and that was only through the heart. So I don't think they get to see Krishna either.
Right. And then the gopis, when they saw Vishnu, they prayed to Vishnu, for Krishna. They saw Vishnu as worshipable. They didn't see Krishna as worshipable. They just love Krishna. That's it. So they're covered by Yoga Maya. But that's a whole other ball game. It's hard to say what the demigods know, and I'm sure they know different degrees. We don't know that many demigods. I mean, the 33 million demigods, I don't think I can name 10 demigods, maybe 10. I'm sure Sugopi can name more, but I don't think she can name the 33 million.
I don't think so.
So I don't know who. But there's a lot of residents in the heavenly planets, apparently that aren't demigods. I'm sure there's more than 33 million people on these planets, on these heavenly planets. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming there is. 33 million isn't that much. How many people are in India?
Over 1 billion.
Yeah, over 1 billion. So you can't have
I
the
think
whole.
1.3 billion.
Well, 33 million is nothing. So they must have a lot of other people there besides the demigods. And those people can worship Krishna or can just enjoy sense gratification. It's a problem with the heavenly planets is you really can enjoy so much more than you can enjoy here. And even though the enjoyment here is pretty limited, we're still striving for that.
Yeah, but they also have, you know, they're also into eating, sleeping, mating, and defending in a sense, but at a much higher quality level.
Right, right. I don't know about how much better they sleep, but they probably sleep pretty nice. Because I mean, when you're sleeping, you don't really know much. Maybe they have nice dreams only. I don't know.
And I wasn't thinking that they get very fearful, but I just recently read then when Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were Vijay and Vijay came into the womb of Diti, that there was a darkness, you know, I mean, always apparently bad signs, you know, came over the whole universe. And there was darkness in the whole universe, and the demigods were fearful and went to Brahma to ask about it, you know. So Prabhupada was commenting that even the demigods get fearful.
Right. It says how they drink somaras to become immortal because they're afraid. They're afraid of death, whereas the cowherd boys, they had no fear of death because Krishna is with them. And there was Aghasura demon, and they thought it's probably a big snake with its mouth open, waiting to eat us all up. What should we do? Well, let's go in his mouth. And they just go. If anything happens, Krishna will save us. What confidence they have in Krishna. So one of the reasons he's discussing his opulences in this chapter is to increase Arjun's devotion, and also, I mean, increase our devotion, and also to help us to see him in this material world. You know, we always see the sun and the moon, so we can think of Krishna when we see the sun and the moon. So we see the different opulences and we can think of Krishna. So it's all to help us become Krishna conscious. But he says, it's in the previous verse. You, my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. And that was in the last verse. Where in the chapter before that is the most confidential knowledge. And this knowledge is even better. You know, so that you have many or much knowledge, then you have more knowledge, then you have the most knowledge. There's nothing more than the most. You know, it's not, there's no, although some people use the word mostest, it's not a word. So he gave the most knowledge, and now this is even better than the previous knowledge he has already given. So one of the things is how Krishna, you know, knowing this knowledge of Krishna's opulences increases our devotion. Now, Arjun is friends of Krishna. They're really good friends. And Arjun is service friend. In the material world, some people are friends and they're not that great of friends. Might be bad association even. But you know, there's a saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. So, but that means somebody needs help, you know, as a friend, you go all out of your way to help them. So that's the way Arjun felt about Krishna. He would do anything for Krishna. And Krishna would likewise do anything for Arjun. Now they're friends. But now Krishna is going to tell him about all his opulences, which he didn't tell him before. So it's almost like if you have a friend and you're good friends, you play, you do whatever you do with them. You know, just like at different ages, your friends, you do different things, but whatever age you're at, you have that friend. I mean, at our age, we talk to our friends. It's like we don't do too much more of anything, but we can talk. And a real friend, of course, is someone who as a devotee, you enlighten each other by conversing about Krishna. But so Arjuna's friends, and we have this friend, say we have some friend, whatever, we can think of somebody who's our friend and what our relationship is with that person. And then you find out that person is a billionaire. He's a billionaire and he's got so many servants, he's got so much, and you never knew any of this about him. Then that's gonna, I mean, for most people, you really appreciate this person so much more, and he can do anything for you practically. So it helps to, I mean, if you're really a good friend of that person beforehand, then that increases your devotion, your love for this friend. I know not exactly, if nothing to that comparison, but there's a couple in Alachua, Prabhupada disciples, and they didn't have much of anything. They just lived real simple. And then I don't remember exactly what happened, but then the husband told his wife after, I mean, they've been married for years, that, you know, we have a lot of money, you know, if we want to buy a house or buy whatever, we could buy it. Anyway, he just like was detached. I guess he inherited the money, and then his wife didn't know anything about it. And then he told her, you know, so I don't know if she liked him more or liked him less after that. You had all this money and we're struggling all these years. But it was kind of funny but I'm sure she appreciated it, and they bought a lot of land and a house, and they live in Alachua. But you know, so you can kind of picture like that. So he's so powerful that you know, whenever he snaps his fingers and people will, you know, want to serve him.
I thought you were going to tell about the couple in Las Vegas who went to the casino, remember?
But
The couple in
no,
Las Vegas who need.
that wouldn't apply at all, because they both were there. They both got the money the same time. I'm saying, I'm giving an example of a friend that has so much and you don't even know it. You're still real good friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
What couple in Las Vegas?
That was an interesting story. You want to tell, Pyari?
No, you can tell him.
Oh no, this devotee couple in Las Vegas, I think they were running a temple in Las Vegas, a small temple like our, you know, preaching center. And they had, I don't know exactly, some money less in managing the temple for that month. They were having difficulty, you know, running the temple, and they needed some money to, I don't know, pay off the mortgage or whatever.
I think I read this. Is it from Back to Godhead magazine, the story?
No, it's just what we heard through the ISKCON.
No, I read this somewhere. They got exactly 10,000. They wanted a pen or something. She wanted something like that.
They walked into a casino, and then they weren't there to, you know, I think they were there to actually ask for money, you know, from whoever would give them something. And then somebody told them, oh, this is like a free day, just, you know, do this machine or something like that. And they just thought they didn't have to pay anything for it. They just did it. And they won exactly the amount of money they needed to support the temple. Couldn't believe it, but of course it was Krishna.
Yeah, but that, I mean, that was definitely Krishna did that. Anyway, he's our best friend, and if you get a friend and you find out, and then you get even more attached to such a friend. So, and even for us, sometimes we're having some difficulty. We pray to Krishna, and then he helps us, and then we want to devote ourselves more to Krishna after that. Because he reciprocates and we feel we want to do something more for him. So that's a real friend. His friends, and love is reciprocation. It's not like in the material world, I'll love you if you love me. No, in the spiritual world, I love you. And whether you love me or not, but then when you reciprocate, then I love you even more. And it just increases more and more. It's really hard to understand because it's unlimited, the spiritual world. Just like our bliss knows no bounds. We can just become happier and happier. I mean, here in the material world, we get to a point on any pleasure and it gets to the limit of it, and that's it. In the spiritual world, there's no limit. So Krishna, by telling us his opulence, is for us to help us to devote ourselves even more to him. It's not like, well, I'll devote myself only to a rich person. No, but this was already a great friend. And now I'm finding out that he has so many different opulences. So I appreciate it even more. And for us, it's also a way for us to see Krishna. I'm saying for Arjuna because they were friends. So Arjuna is going to become even more and more attached to Krishna. And for us, we can remember Krishna more. We forget Krishna all day long. So once in a while, we can see something that can remind us of Krishna. And he gives so many examples in this chapter where we can see things which will remind us of him. I'm the wind. I'm out of purifiers, I'm the wind. Wind is purifying. So when we go out in that blizzard and it's freezing cold, snowy wind coming at us, you think of Krishna.
We should go to California to really see the wind, Santa Ana winds.
Yeah, those winds are probably a little bit better. But then there's Agni, the fire god in California.
Yes. Fire god. Oh, you have to see everything as Krishna.
Yeah. Agni is just a servant of Krishna. You have to be able to see Krishna everywhere. And that's what a pure devotee sees. And for us, this chapter can help us to see Krishna everywhere. And see him in a personal way. It's interesting how the great sages, they see the impersonal aspect and they think that's supreme. I mean, a lot of great sages. So that's also something we can learn from Bhagavad Gita, that the impersonal is just, resting on Krishna. Krishna is the source of the impersonal Brahman. Krishna is the source of, the Brahma Jyoti. And the Brahman is the absolute truth. It's just one aspect of the absolute truth. It's not the complete whole. It's not the complete picture of the absolute truth. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Bhagavan is the complete whole, the complete absolute truth. And Bhagavan includes Paramatma. Bhagavan includes Brahman. And there's, less intelligent people think that Brahman is the ultimate. Anyway, it's the only conclusion you can come to by just studying this world and thinking that the opposite of this world is what the absolute truth is. I don't know why you think that way, but I know I thought that way too. Why I thought the opposite. And so this is one thing, and it has to be the opposite of this because this is wrong. So they conclude ultimately there's variety here. There's no variety in the absolute. It's just all one energy, one force. So we can understand and know Krishna, the unknowable. Krishna is not knowable, but we can understand him by him revealing himself to us. It's interesting how not even the demigods nor the great sages can know him. So what to speak of the PhDs who study this Vedic knowledge? They don't know him at all. They can't even compare to the great sages and the demigods. So you can't know him by book knowledge. You can't know him by different degrees you get, but you can know him by just surrendering to him. As you surrender, he rewards you accordingly. And everyone's following him in all respects, surrendering to his internal or his external energy, and he rewards accordingly. So we got only a couple of minutes left. Anyone have any comments or questions? What? I was just going to say with Lord Chaitanya and the Brahmin who couldn't read, he was illiterate, but yet Lord Chaitanya, when he, for those who don't know, I'll tell the whole thing, is he was crying and other people were laughing at him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went over to him and asked him, why is he crying? He said he's crying because his Guru Maharaj instructed him to read Bhagavad Gita every day. And he's illiterate, doesn't know how to read. So then Lord Chaitanya said, so why are you crying? He said, well, when I think about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, taking the position of a charioteer of his devotee Arjuna, that brings tears to my eyes. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are the real knower of Bhagavad Gita. So you don't have to even know how to read, and you can know Krishna and know Bhagavad Gita. Somebody was saying something?
Someone was saying something before me. I don't know. Someone had some comment.
Okay, last chance, comment, question? Well, I'd like to thank you all for participating, especially Sue Gopi and Jill, who turned on their cameras from nice to see people, it really is. But I mean, those who worship the Brahma Jyoti, it's okay. You guys don't have to turn it on. If it's on or it's off, it's all one anyway. But for those
Oh, it's not Brahma Jyoti. You don't want to see our demoniac faces, with our hair standing up.
your hair standing on end, that's a symptom of love of God.
I think it's not ecstasy. It's just frustration, I guess.
Okay, anyway, I do appreciate that you all came on. So it's all for our obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Patitanam Pavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai, Shri Prabhu Ki Jai, Pyari Mohan Prabhu Ki Jai, Hare Krishna. We miss talking to you, you know, I haven't gone out anywhere lately.
Oh, I'm staying at home for quite a
I
while.
am too. So many people on my team are sick with COVID. So many people, and many of them have had 2 shots and boosters. So it is a bit scary. I mean, of course, they're not dying, but they're getting pretty sick.
Well, I was with someone on Monday, and on Tuesday found